Welcome back to the Lift Free and Diet Hard podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Coates. Join me along with industry leaders and friends on a quest to get more people through the gym door and eating and living healthier. Join me where evidence meets empathy while rejecting fitness industry fads and extremism. Let's begin. Brad Dieter, one of my favorite faces and friends from the industry. For anybody listening, you don't get to see that smile and that perfect hair, but if you go do any of the video-based stuff, the YouTube or the Spotify video, you guys will see him. Brad, it's great to have you on. You were actually one of the last guests I had before I put the podcast originally on hiatus, flipped the format. So it's good to have you back. You spoke at my conference last year, very popular there. And you are the COO and co-owner of Macros Inc. And you've got a PhD, extensive work in both the private sector on, I suppose biomedical is probably like the right word, but doesn't quite do it justice. And obviously, in the coaching side, educational side of this industry. So you're a powerhouse. It's great to have you on.
Andrew, it's always great to connect with you. It's so crazy how long our careers have been at this point, and just how much we've been able to do over the course of the careers we've had, and then just how much we've been able to interact. And it's just been fun to watch everybody's careers continue to grow and blossom, and how many people we've helped. And excited to be here today, and looking forward to the conversation.
And I suppose there's one thing I left out. You recently became a dad. Congratulations, right? That's a big deal.
Yes. Yeah. Middle of February. So it's, that's obviously big life-changing stuff. It's been great. It's been really cool to watch my wife kind of turn into being a mom and just that whole process. So yeah, we're excited. It's been fun. Obviously pretty exhausting emotionally, physically, but yeah, it's been great. It's been a blast.
Let's turn this one around to help people, because you have quite the legacy especially with Macros Inc. On helping a lot of people. So I've got some questions pulled out of that. But first, there's a quote that I like, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Quote, "No one ever won a Lifetime Achievement Award for something they worked on for 6 months. A life you are proud of takes years to build. Keep writing the chapters of a life story you want told someday. The time is going to pass anyway. You might as well write an epic story." Talk to me about this as it relates to healthy lifestyle. This episode is brought to you by Renaissance Periodization and the RP Hypertrophy app. RP is the industry leader in muscle building, coaching, and education. This app is like having a coach in your pocket. It gives you everything you need, including training programs, form videos, gives you all your sets, reps, and weights, so you just show up and follow the plan. It adjusts each week based off your progress. And the app was created by Dr. Mike Isertel, Nick Shaw, and the team at RP, who I've known for many years, and the entire team are incredible people who've always been supportive and generous with me, so I know their character and they're easy to endorse. My library contains several RP books, and I've used RP training principles in my workouts and coaching with my clients for many years, long before the explosion in popularity of their YouTube channel, which is worth checking out. RP is the first sponsor I felt remotely comfortable endorsing after over 7 years of podcasting. And if hiring a one-on-one coach isn't for you, using the RP Hypertrophy app is the next best thing to maximize your gains and take the guesswork out of your program. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. If you don't like it, they'll give you your money back. And I've also got a serious discount for you of up to $50 US. Go to rpstrength.com/coats and use the code COATESRP, or go to the link below in the show notes, and that's rpstrength.com/coats. Use the code COATESRP.
Man, I was thinking about this, something related to this a little bit yesterday. I was actually sitting down with one of my athletes that I've worked with for a while, and we were talking about, how do you build a career you're proud of? And so much of it just comes down to, how do you prioritize the things in your life that actually matter? And how do you just continue to show up and do those every single day? And when we talk about this in like the context of, health, wellness, fitness, nutrition, is what are the things that you're doing in your life to make your health a priority? And this is something I've been talking about with my coaches a lot recently, of like, how do you help your clients find ways to prioritize this part of your life? Because the reality is your health, your fitness, your wellness really is the result of the investments you make on a daily basis, right? And if you are prioritizing that really low on your list, you're just never going to have the ability to invest in what that means and get the compound returns. I mean, like if you wake up on a given day and you just mentally think about what your priorities are, usually the like eating well, going to the gym is kind of like fifth, sixth, seventh on the priority, right? It's like, got to get my job done. I got to take care of my kids. Got to take care of my spouse. I got to take care of whatever the like household stuff is. And then if there's time, I'm going to take care of my own body. And in reality, it's like, how do we get people and how do we have the conversations of it's okay and it's probably better if you put that at the top of your list? Because imagine if you take care of yourself first every day, and then like how much better will you show up, not just today, but like 10 years from now? Are you going to show up as a better version of yourself if you've done that than if you've always been last on your priority list in a day?
This episode is brought to you by Just Bite Me Meals. I work long days and I won't compromise my client experience or sacrifice my workout, sleep, or nutrition. So I needed quality and reliable meal prep service so I could save time on cooking and shopping and have more time for the stuff that matters. Net out the cost of groceries and the service isn't as much as you might think, and regular impulsive food delivery apps, eating out, that costs way more anyway. I get more meal variety and less dishes to clean, and I've been referring clients to Just Buy Me Meals for a long time, and I recently started ordering myself. Food is great. The beef brisket tacos are my favorite so far, and there's a lot of menu choice. Your calories and macros are listed. The portions are great. You can order custom meals. They deliver to your door, or you can pick up from the storefront. And I'm sorry to listeners outside of Alberta, but Just Buy Me Meals is currently just in Edmonton, Calgary, Grand Prairie, and Fort McMurray. Ordering from Just Buy Me Meals made my life easier instantly. And you can get 10% off on all your orders using my code, Andrew Coates Fitness, all caps, on their website. That's Andrew Coates Fitness, all capitals, or go to the link and the code in the show notes. Do you think that people create narratives that suggest that other things are a priority? Do you think that's part of the problem? They've got a story that says, well, I have to do this, I have to do this, I'm a parent, my job, et cetera, et cetera. Health becomes last.
I think the narrative we tell ourselves is a huge part of it. I think the other part of it is it's easier to get more instant gratification out of doing all the other things. Like if you do your job, you kind of feel like, oh, I had the self-sacrifice of doing work, so everybody else gets the benefit, right? Like the bills are paid, etc. If I put, playing with my kids first, like the self-sacrifice of putting them ahead of me, it's like that instant gratification more of what we get from doing those things versus putting ourselves in a somewhere higher up on the priority list. And I think that's just a lot of how we're wired, right? It's also culturally kind of how that kind of self-sacrifice is fairly high on our like cultural values list, right? Like when you get together with your colleagues and you talk about like the days of being in the trenches and how difficult life was when you were in your 20s, like that's sort of your status symbol, right? Like when we all get together, we're always like, oh man, let me tell you about how terrible it was building my business and how many 80 hours a week I worked. Like nobody really goes, oh yeah, like I prioritized my health and I did this and everything was pretty good and I just made it, right? It's like the self-sacrifice is part of the badge that we all wear.
That goes to the thought about the narrative about these things have to almost come at the cost of our health.
Yeah, when they don't have to.
Do you also think that too many people are just living in reactive mode? They're not prioritizing and planning a little bit, thinking ahead. They wake up, look at the phone, there's a bunch of emails to get to, and all of a sudden it's just being thrown around based on everybody else's pull and demands on your time?
Yes, 100%. I think that's most of us, right? And I'm guilty of that a lot of times too. If I don't make it a priority, if I don't like hold solid boundaries, like it's very quick and easy for my day to just be like, oh, I ended up doing everything everybody else wanted done and didn't really get to do the stuff that actually mattered in my own life.
What does that conversation look like for the clients, the people you work with, about getting them to put themselves first, setting the boundaries, planning ahead?
It's a little bit of it is just letting them know that it's okay to put yourself high on your own priority list. Like a lot of people have just never been told that. Like a lot of people have just never had somebody tell them it's okay that you invest in yourself and you put yourself first. And a lot of people just never get that message. Not because people tell them the opposite, but that's just not something people get told.
Is it as simple as just telling them though?
Well, I mean, it's as simple as just telling them, but then getting them to believe that is a little bit different. And so I think it's a little bit of like the repetition of continuing to remind them of those things. And then also it's a little bit of you've got to get clients to gain the experiential knowledge of what it feels like to do that, right? Like the first day that you kind of prioritize yourself, you feel selfish. Like you don't feel great about it. It's a little bit weird. It's kind of like the first time someone asks you to go do something and you just tell them no and they ask why and you're like, I just don't want to go, instead of making up some excuse, right? It's like, it's a weird feeling to do that. And so you kind of have to, for weeks or months, get people in this mode. And then they're like, oh, I get it. This is actually good for me and good for everybody else. A lot of it's, I mean, one of the analogies I'll use on this like experiential knowledge piece is like if you've got a client who for 10 years has been told you have to eat a low carbohydrate diet to maintain a low body weight and a low body composition, like until they've actually followed a higher carbohydrate diet and maintain their weight, they're never going to believe you. They just don't know what that feels like. And so you have to get them in that mode of like, can I do this for days, weeks, months at a time and get the results? So they're like, oh yeah, this is what this looks and feels like.
Let's go deeper on that. Your company has helped hundreds, probably thousands of people improve their metabolic health, lose body fat, get more active, and maintain this stuff. What are the habits across the data that you see, the trends, for the people who lose the weight, keep it off, stay active, versus the people that fall back into old patterns?
You know, I think one of the things that we've seen is the people who can be fairly resilient of a bad day or a bad week. Like if they have a good week and then a bad weekend comes, if Monday comes around and they can just get back to it, versus they let that bad weekend be like, oh, well, I don't really want to check in with my coach because I had a bad weekend. It's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. If they can just kind of roll with the mistakes, quote unquote, the bad days, that's a huge piece of it. Just the consistently showing up and not letting the bad days compound is a huge part of it. The next one is probably a little bit tied into that, but just developing a level of consistency over months and years is really what separates people. And it's not the level of intensity in which they tackle things. It's just, can they actually do something for months at a time? And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to go from, day one being, having really bad habits to day two having perfect habits and sustaining that. It's like, can you just show up every day and just do some of the work required every day for months? Those are the big things we see. And then I would say, the third thing is the people who can unwind the narratives they've told themselves is huge. Like I could almost classify clients into two categories of people. People who come in with a self-narrative that's negative and unchangeable, and then people that come in and have a narrative that they're open to changing. Like a lot of times,
fixed versus growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is the amount of labels people put on themselves, whether it's, in addition to the fixed versus growth mindset of just like the number of labels somebody puts on themselves is directly correlated to how well they're able to change. And so like when I see a intake form and I see like, I'm XYZ, I'm like, oh, okay. This person already in their mind has a picture of who they are.
I'm a foodie. There's a lot that I zero in on. So I'm like you. I zero on specific language. And whenever a client in front of me uses fixed, rigid language about their identity, and I don't criticize, but I pause and I draw their attention to it. And I then talk about how, when we define ourselves in certain ways, it deflects from, especially if that label is somehow, and here's a word I love, permission. It gives us permission to behave in a certain way. And therefore, we've sort of absolved ourselves of a sense of agency or control. It becomes an external locus of control exercise where they think, well, I am just beholden to this narrative and this identity, and I can't change it, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And so this was an interesting thing that I've learned over the last 10 years. So I remember at one point early in my kind of fellowship phase of my career was kind of when the medical establishment was changing the phrasing from people who were diabetic to people with diabetes. And now instead of obese people, it's people with obesity. And, I think the medical community made that shift to try to avoid the stigma. But what I think the actual value underneath that is removing the label, because people are not a thing. Like, people are not a foodie. People are not a diabetic. People are not an obese person. Like, people are so much more than the labels they have given themselves. And most of the times those labels just get in the way.
Makes a lot of sense. Go on, like, take further if you have anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, if you look at your own career and what you've done professionally, how many of the things that you thought you'd never be able to do were a little bit tied to like the mental barriers you put on yourself, right? You're like, oh, I'll never be a world-class trainer because I don't have X pedigree. Oh, I'm never going to be famous on social media because I'm, from a small town in Canada. Oh, I'm never going to do this because, I started my career late. It's like all these labels we put on ourselves until we realize they just don't make any sense.
I'll give you a very specific one, and I've used this in presentations about this. I remember early in my career, I was working in commercial gym. Now I was very busy, really, really busy. Word of mouth, referral, did great. But I remember listening to popular fitness podcasts, reading T Nation and the other, big publications, and following the industry leaders, the authorities. And now, of course, many of those people are now my friends. But I remember distinctly thinking there were two kinds of fitness professionals. There were the regular everyday trainers on the gym floor, like me, and then this tier of authorities and leaders. And at no point for the first several years of my career did I have any concept that there was a pathway to this. They were just there. They were just successful. They were it. And I had no conceptualization of how any of those people grew from, because virtually every single one of them started out as Jonathan Goodman, started out as a trainer on a gym floor. And Jonathan, by his own admission, claims that he wasn't necessarily the best technical trainer. Now, he was very good at staying very busy. And then he started writing the PTDC, the website, and that grew and grew. And all of a sudden now he's a sought-after speaker and author. But I couldn't envision a pathway. But then there was a few key people who and this gets a little bit career-based, but who I would watch what they did and learn from what they did. And I just kept doing things and showing up to events and what have you. Met you in 2018 at one of them. And then the compounding effect of the things I stepped into, because then I had shed that. I didn't hold myself to that definition, and just stuff kept happening. And then very quickly, and this is what I want to get your thoughts on, is I started adopting labels in a positive sense, right? I started writing for my own website. So all of a sudden now I'm a fitness writer, which opens the doors to invitations to write for the bigger publications. So can people change labels or use positive labels that then define positive behavior?
I think you can use a lot of different psychological tools, either to your detriment or your benefit. And it just depends on how you do it and your perspective on it, right? I mean, you can really label yourself as anything. You can label yourself negatively or positively. Now, with the exception of you can't really label yourself a doctor if you don't have a license. You can't just operate on somebody.
Our industry tries this shit. Like, there are the rare cases where people do this, right?
Yeah.
They fudge the lines where they may technically be able to use the label, but they imply that there's something or not.
Yeah. That's like, I think there's a story of some guy who just pretended to be a neurosurgeon and was like doing brain surgery on people and had never gone to medical school. That's like some crazy story. But it's just, there's a lot of psychological tools that you can use to your benefit, but most people end up using them negatively because that's just human nature, right? We see this with clients all the time of they label themselves as all sorts of things. Like, hey, I just am not a gym person. I'm just not a fitness person. I'm just not X. I'm just not Y. It's like, where did that come from? Like, I don't know. I just decided it one day. Why? Well, because I've never done it before. It's like, okay, well, how about you do it one time and then you just slap the label on yourself of now you're a runner because you ran once. Oh, can I do that? Well, you did it the other way, so why can't we just do it the other way? Like, these are things that people don't really think about, and they can use them on both sides of the line if they actually just take time to think about it.
Have you ever had clients who left your guys' organization coaching for the allure of a fad, maybe another system, only to return later? What happens there?
Let's see, every day. Like, I mean, we have so many clients that somebody's always leaving every day. And then a lot of times they go to something else and they come back. I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Probably the top reasons people would do that is the most uncomfortable one is people don't want to be honest with themselves. Like, really good coaching in our space involves pretty difficult conversations and asking people to objectively assess their own behavior, right? Like, we know if somebody's trying to lose weight, the basics of weight loss are pretty simple. Like, how much are you moving? How much are you consuming? And what's the delta between those two? Now, obviously, there's behaviors that are really complicated that go into each of those parts of the equation. But a lot of times, people aren't ready to have the honest conversations with themselves. So as a coach, sometimes you try to hold your clients accountable and they're like, you know what? This is too much. I don't want to deal with these conversations. I'm just going to go try this new thing that I saw on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. That's a big reason. Another one is we live in a world where we're so distracted. Like, I just think about how many different ads for different things I see on a daily basis. And just like, there's always the promise of something new and better. And so I don't blame people for being like, oh, this looks different. It looks new. It looks sexy. I want to try something new. And people are always going to go try new things, right? And then when it doesn't work, they're going to go back to what works, right? This is just part of human behavior. Like, it's baked into pretty much everything, right? It's like, why do people in happy, committed relationships go find other people, right? It's like, this is just what we're wired to do. Like, we're wired to go seek novelty. So I think that's another part of it. And then the last piece, probably the last major reason, is doing what's required to have meaningful results over a long time requires a level of effort. Like, there's just no getting around that. And so sometimes I think people want to take a break from what's hard and try to find something that's a little bit easier for a while. And sometimes it's because life's tough. Like, sometimes you hit a period of life where you just want something a little bit easier than what you're currently doing. Like, why do we sometimes take vacations from work? Like, I think that's also just a big part of the human psychology of like, this is hard, I need a break, but I want to tell myself I'm still doing something for my health, so I'm going to go try something that's easier.
Does it ever work?
Not in the long term.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why do they come back to you guys? Or, you know what? What are they coming back to? What are they coming back for?
We had a client review come in, I don't know, maybe 6 to 12 months ago. And the quote in their review that stuck out to me, and I still think about it all the time, is they said, I came back to coaching because when I was in the program, I was the best version of myself. And why would I not want to spend as many years of my life being the best version of myself as possible? And I was just thinking about that, and I was like, that's such a great perspective, because, I mean, a lot of what good coaching, like ours included, involves, a lot of it's like, we're going to have objective conversations about what's working, what's not working. We're going to try to shine a mirror into your behaviors and be like, hey, here's what you say, here's what I see. And in a way that's like, coaching, not like we're not judging you, but it's like, hey, here's what you said is happening. Here's what we see happening. How do we change the behavior to be more objective of reality and what you want? And then just that level of accountability and someone to be there and support you, I think, is huge. And then the last piece that I don't think I really appreciated until more recently is a lot of people, their support systems don't understand people's drive, desire, and commitment to being like a healthy, fit person. Like, if I look at my extended family, like my parents, my aunts, my uncles, my sister, out of like 25 people, there's maybe like 2 who are like regularly physically active as adults and like prioritize eating well, prioritize exercise, etc. And so I think a lot of times people feel very alone in what matters to them. Like, if you lived in that situation and you were to tell somebody about your PR at the gym, they might be like, cool, but like, they don't get it. And so when you have a coach, someone who's like lives that same life with you, like, you have someone to celebrate your wins and your tough days with. And I think that's another big part of it.
It makes me think, like, and thankfully my immediate family is much more conscientious about health, and they listen to the podcast. They very much enjoy what's been going on with my career. So there's sort of this added benefit that my career keeps this stuff at a constant, top of mind for them, which my mom, lifts weights with her sister. They have regular classes, and, they're out walking a fair bit. And, one of my brothers, he's lost a whole bunch of weight, and he's been far more active, and he's got a physical job, which is great. But I also remember over the years things like, cautioning about getting hurt lifting too heavy, this sort of stuff, right? Because there's sort of there's a misunderstanding of exactly what's involved with it. And you learn to not talk about certain aspects of it because and I guess this goes into the shame cycle with dieting, especially if someone's goal is fat loss and the various different beliefs that say, I like to think about this as, especially when we deal with a mom metaphorically or literally, because it's usually a mom who probably, spent a generation watching Oprah and her yo-yo diet cycle, or was plugged into other, trappings of, quote, diet culture. And then was also probably culturally indoctrinated in beliefs about your value as a person, in your leanness, your attractiveness to a mate. I've gotten this stuff from so many of the women that I've trained. Mm-hmm. And I like to suggest that these are artifacts of someone else's belief system, and they don't belong to you. They don't have to belong to you. It's not as simple as saying to someone, this isn't yours, you just can discard it. But I think it opens the door. So what do you think's going on there?
Most of us find a lot of our value from external sources. I think that's normal. I don't know if that's right or it's good, but I think it's normal. Like, I think about, when you go to work, you get a lot of your value of the perception you have of what other people think of you, right? When you're in your own house with your own family, you get a lot of your value, self-worth, and self-esteem from the perception you have of what your family thinks about you. And so I think a lot of times we see this outside noise from media, from whatever, and we project those things onto people of what they think about us based on our own current status, right? If I walk into a room and I'm super fit, super attractive, super wealthy, I'm assuming everybody's thinking those things about me. If I walk into a room and I'm not attractive, I'm overweight, and I'm broke, I'm assuming people are looking at me and making all of those judgments about me and my self-worth. It's probably true that people aren't thinking any of those things, but that's like how we process the world.
It's the meme where the guy's standing in the corner at the party and the other two couples are dancing. It's a stick figure drawing, and you're in the corner going, they don't know that, I'm blah, 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 whatever. And meanwhile, they're just dancing and they're not even paying attention to him.
Yeah. And so I think we go through our lives, that's what we think every day, right? Like, that's just how we interface with the world. And so I think a lot of times we've got to figure out personally, like, how do we navigate that, and how do we not let that get to us? And I was actually thinking about this same concept yesterday. I was at the gym. I was just sitting there and I was like, there are people here in wheelchairs who can barely move at the gym. There are people here who are severely overweight trying to lose weight. There are people here who are clearly getting ready for a bodybuilding show. Like, there are people here who are like just stretching and doing yoga. There's people here playing pickleball. And everybody's all doing this. And then the reality is, I don't think anybody in that gym was judging anybody else for why they were there. But we all probably walk into that gym and assume, oh, that guy in the wheelchair is thinking this about me. That guy getting ready for the bodybuilding show is probably judging me that I'm not as lean as he is. Those people playing pickleball are probably judging me because I'm not playing pickleball, because apparently everybody needs to be doing that now. Like, these are the things we think. But in reality, I was like, man, I think everybody's just here to do what they want to do. And we need to just not let what those people are thinking about us on a day-to-day basis determine how we feel.
And I think that these are narratives that give us permission, because we feel like we're being judged far more than we probably are. Yeah. Let's say 1 out of 20 people happens to have some sort of negative thought. But if you recognize the fact that the overwhelming majority don't, and you can train yourself to go, no one is thinking about me, they're all worried about themselves, then for maybe the occasional time you encounter someone who has some sort of negative attitude about you, well, you're also filtering that out, so you don't care about it and you don't let it affect you, right? You just go about your business. And I think that's the best mindset too. And here's another way to put it. And I figured this out in university. And I remember it very viscerally because I'd walk through the tunnels and the hallways at university. And I might walk past someone that I met and I knew socially. And I'd, smile or try to say hi to them. And they almost seemed like they looked right through you, but they're just looking past you and walking. And then I would attribute some sort of negativity or, oh, they don't like me, right? You're a 20-year-old kid in university. But then very quickly I realized, like, how fucking egocentric is it to believe that this person is A, concerned with you, or B, that let's say you encounter someone who's having like sort of a bad day, like there's a little bit of negative energy, that somehow you are the cause of what's going on with them. There's all sorts of other shit going on in everybody else's lives. I mean, think about our own experience. And these people simply are not thinking about you or affected by you. And when you think about it that way, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And I like making people realize this. It's bloody egocentric to actually ever think this way. And you can let that go, and it's very freeing, and you're not worried about other people's judgment.
Yeah.
And I think worrying about these things, the person going into the gym worried about what other people are thinking, it can be a thing, again, grants permission to go, well, I don't feel comfortable here. I don't want to be here. I know I need to be here. But you build up this fear, and it's like, all right, this is permission not to go, right? To stop doing the thing that they need to do. What happens when you remove support structures for healthy lifestyle behavior? And that includes coaching. We've heard talk about this recently.
I think here's what I think happens from what I've seen. It's fine until life gets tough. Because we usually default to like our survival mechanisms when life is hard. And unfortunately, for the average person, life gets hard more frequently than you would think. Right? I think that was one of the big realizations I had as I started to coach more and more people of like, life happens, and it happens a lot, and it happens to a lot of people. And, there's job loss, there's accidents, there's sickness, there's divorce, there's kids, there's moving, there's all sorts of stuff. And the support systems are what really help people stay on the path when stuff gets hard. And so I think what happens a lot of times is people do the opposite. If they go, life is too tough right now, I don't want to spend any effort in the support systems because I'm in survival mode. And it's like, that's actually probably when you need to lean on someone the most. And sometimes it's just because you need somebody to remind you it's okay to put yourself first, even when life's really hard.
And then there goes to, I've seen various iterations of the quote that it's wise to actually start when things are tough, when you're busy, because you train yourself to do it, make room for it when things are tough. Because otherwise, if you quit anytime life gets busy, and trust me, you just had a kid, right? And meanwhile, you're just at the gym. There's a lot of socially acceptable narratives about not doing, personally prioritizing health, promoting behaviors. But if that stuff's ingrained when things are difficult, then you don't give yourself permission to say, well, it's too busy right now.
Yeah. And I think, if you were to just objectively ask somebody, let's say a pending crisis in your life is coming, whether it's a relationship issue, an illness issue, a job loss, or whatever. Do you think you being in the best physical and mental shape is going to help you do a better job getting through that? Or do you think if you just kind of like just get through your days and are in survival mode and you don't take care of yourself, are you going to get through it better? And when you like ask people that, they're always like, well, yeah, me being in the best physical and mental shape possible is going to help me get through that the most. But that's just, we're so wired to just take the easiest path. Like that's just normal human behavior, except for the like few crazy people out there. Some people just like to find the hardest path possible through anything. But like when you ask people that question, it's a pretty obvious answer, but they usually don't stop and actually think about that.
If someone calls you obsessive about something, this is a quote, take it as a compliment. Being focused on the details to become excellent is something to be proud of. Most people won't understand your desire to be great. Talk to me about that.
Man, this one hits maybe a little bit close to home. Try not to get emotional about this, but 20s and early 30s were very intense. Just like worked a lot, took a lot of risk, was pretty focused on a few things. And I remember having a conversation with my family. They like sat me down and they were like, hey, we don't understand you anymore. Like, we don't know who you are. Like, you're always busy. You've missed some like family stuff. Like, why are you so driven to do this? And I was like, that's just the way I'm wired. And they're like, we will never understand this. And I'm like, I don't need you to understand it. Like, I just don't understand why you assume I need to be you. And so I think a lot of times we end up spending a lot of emotional energy in our lives trying to make either other people understand us, or want other people to fit in a box that we want them to be in. And I think the hardest part is we spend a lot of time in conflict of who are we and are we being the person somebody else wants us to be? And that can be really tough. And I think a lot of times our clients, especially if they have, like a family structure or a lifestyle that's very different from the people around them, there's kind of this tension of like, oh, it's 6 a.m. and you want to go to the gym on vacation. You're crazy. What are you doing? Right. And like these things are often in conflict.
Any thoughts on setting boundaries against the pressure, even let's say sabotage that people face, whether it's, the proverbial office donuts that come out all of a sudden when you start talking about the fact that, hey, I'm on a diet and I'm trying to be healthier?
I think you can spend a lot of time vocalizing your boundaries to people and trying to get other people to change themselves and your environment so it suits you. And I don't think it ever works. Like, I think it's just always an uphill battle. Like trying to tell your office people, hey, don't bring in donuts because I want a diet. That's going to fall on deaf ears. I think what you have to do is just focus on what are the boundaries that you have and can you be consistent in the decisions that you make. Right. And I think a lot of times, like, realize all that outside stuff is about them, not you. The donuts being there, it's not about you. Right. People telling you things, it's not about you. It's about them. And so you just have to be congruent with the decisions that you believe in and that you want to make.
I definitely believe in some scenarios, your efforts is a stimulus that makes them uncomfortable. They see a reflection of something that they don't like about themselves or they're uncomfortable about their own efforts. And it's much easier to try to, and I choose the word sabotage deliberately, or make this uncomfortable stimulus go away than it is to look in the mirror, say, hey, I don't like this about myself, and then change behavior. And I believe that's at least what's going on some of the time.
Yeah. And I think I got to try to find this article I wrote on this forever ago, is there's always going to be some level of change is uncomfortable for both yourself and everybody around you, right? Like when you are trying to change a behavior, it's uncomfortable internally. It's also uncomfortable for other people because they have this view of who you are. And then when you're doing something that's not who you are, it's uncomfortable for them because now you're, one, a slightly different person than they thought, and two, you're going in a new direction and they don't know where you're going to end up. So there's a little bit of uncomfortable, like, oh, who are you going to be in a year from now? And so I think that also is one of those things where it's like, just know that people are sometimes uncomfortable with that change.
We can take that a little further. You are in people's minds who they need you to be. So I like this little thought exercise. It goes back to something you said earlier. When we walk into a room, we assume people can read our mind. We've all experienced that. We think that everybody can, sense all of our deepest, darkest thoughts and fears. They're not paying attention, and they certainly can't. But the only person that actually knows you, everything about you is you. You are a construct based on carefully selected ideas and narratives about you and how you show up in these people's world. And if you've ever wondered how, there are people in my world who think I am the nicest person in the universe and I could never, ever, ever have any sort of, difficult streak or no one could ever dislike me. And are you fucking kidding me? It just depends on who's done what to provoke the nastier side, right? That's a different story. But if you start thinking about this, you realize that nobody actually really knows you. You're just in their minds, what they need you to be. And what you alluded to is the fact that all of a sudden now you've changed, and that makes them a little bit uncomfortable. There's cognitive dissonance all of a sudden between their construct of the identity formed of you and how you are now behaving.
And I think this is the part of the journey that often feels comfortable and lonely, right? Because one, you're not quite sure where you're going to end up, and the people around you aren't quite sure where you're going to end up. And that's just, it's limbo, right? It's sort of like, if you worked a regular corporate job and you leave to go become an entrepreneur, you don't know where you're going to end up. And if you're married, your spouse doesn't know where you're going to end up. Maybe you guys end up rich and balling in a mansion, or maybe you guys end up living in a shoebox, and that's really uncomfortable. And I think that's just acknowledging that fact is usually a really good thing for the relationships around you. Like just saying, hey, I'm adopting new behaviors. You're going to see things that are different and they change. And just know that this is coming.
One more quote that I pulled out that I liked, and it's related to a lot of the stuff we talked about. Quote, "It's okay to do the work in silence. It's okay to win in silence. It's okay to celebrate in silence." So there's two things going on here. And let's relate this to healthy lifestyle behavior change. Do you think that too many people require external praise or validation to support their ongoing efforts for lifestyle change? And then when they don't get that, is that part of the reason why they don't keep up the behavior, the external validation?
I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. I think especially in the modern world, I think people think the external validation is going to make them feel like they've done the right thing.
Mm.
And so I think it's two layers. One, I think when they get the validation and they realize it doesn't really matter, it's not great. And then I think spending a lot of your time and energy focusing on that is not great either. I mean, it's such a strange thing that we live in a time where you are expected to have your highlights of your life out for everybody to see. Like, you're expected to. Is it because people want to see your highlights? Is it because you want the validation from your highlights? Or is it like, what is the reason we've all adopted this? I'm not quite sure.
This makes me think about everything you just said, makes me think of why, and I recently had Ava Cowan on, and we talked a little bit about this, but especially when I think young women, on average, I think men can be susceptible to this too, but who may not have a good relationship with their body image, insecure, what have you, but then they want to go compete in a local bikini or other sort of physique show, thinking that, well, I will get validation when I step up on the stage. The process obviously is quite difficult, but then what ends up happening is you're judged and, quite frankly, critiqued, and you give it a placing. So to me, that sounds like a cocktail for disaster in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've never once had the desire to go do a physique show. Just have never been like, hey, I'm going to go do this. And it's specifically for the point of like, why do I want to go on stage, take my shirt off, and have somebody give me a scorecard? Like, I've never understood why people enjoy that. I mean, like, it's a huge thing. People get it. We've helped people get ready for it. But like me personally, I've never really wanted to do that. But I mean, I think that's one of the missing pieces. I think a lot of people don't focus on is like the thing that actually matters during your journey is the journey itself. And it's and I know it's cliche, but it's a little bit of like who you become along the way is actually what really matters. And you've got to really think about when you spend so much time like being public with all of the stuff you're doing, how much of that process on a day-to-day basis are you focused on? What is the outcome of today's output, like the selfie, the whatever, and you're just losing the work process. I mean, I think about this fairly consistent or fairly regularly, like on the business side of stuff of like I can't tell you how many ads I see a day of like, I'll help you build X figure business. I've done X, I've done Y. And like the work that gets done behind the scenes is what actually matters.
And you remind me, because the event that I had you speak at, it was definitely geared towards coaches and career development. And I've been at a lot of the big, fitness mentorship type events, and some of them are actually spectacular, run by great people. My friend Luca Hosvar spoke at his Vigor Ground Fitness and Business Summit. Sensational experience, right? We have a lot of alignment in how we envision wanting to help coaches. But I bet it's some other ones that it's almost like too pushy an upsell per se. And I brought you in, and you have a fairly, humble and, fairly quiet presence across media because you're so head down in the work. But I brought you because, I know you're a great public speaker, you're really knowledgeable, but you have a very successful company that's transformed a lot of lives and provided careers for a lot of great coaches. So I wanted your wisdom and insight from a successful career, but you almost never wave that around on media. And the room, when you were speaking, the only mistake I made was putting you too late on the second day, right? I wish I'd put you on day one, because that people would have been like just all over you the whole event, right? But they were just they were mesmerized and they were locked in on this stuff, and the reviews were fantastic, right? Because there's a lot of wisdom from success there, and
Yeah.
there's something about someone who does it without being overly flashy, and I think you can share the wins. Like I'm great about sharing. So I pick my spots when I share my wins, but I like sharing the wins. And you also know who, it's not to say like everybody has to clap and cheer every time, but you know who your friends are. And it's nice to see who's genuinely happy for you. You kind of know those sort of things. But I also try to channel in a way that inspires and shows the path and goes, hey, I have my entire career with everything I've done is like, here's the process. Here's what went into it. Here is the way to do this stuff. If you guys want to, and a lot of people have followed the footsteps, and there's a lot of people who've been like, no, I just want to, I want to fast pass through this. It's like, there is no fast pass.
Yeah. And I think when I wrote that quote, it was geared toward, I think a lot of times people who are doing the work and seeing the results, but are not public about it. I think sometimes they feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. And I think a lot of times people need to be reminded of like, just because things aren't public doesn't mean they aren't important. And so like I have that conversation with like our staff a lot. I have that conversation with clients of like the external validation is the cherry on top. It's not the win. The win is like in business, the win is you've helped way more people. You have better financial security so you can make better decisions to build a better life for your family. And you have the mental peace of knowing like I have the ability to do the work I want to do every day. The awards and the big tax returns and like getting to say you built a 7-8 figure business, like the reality is none of that means anything. Right? It's all the downstream stuff. On the health and fitness side, it's like the selfie that gets 500 likes on Instagram. That's cool. Or 1,000 likes or whatever people get now. But what's even better is like how you feel when you wake up every day, how confident you are when you get to go out to an event and you get to wear the new outfit that you have, or you go on the vacation. Like those are the things that you take with you. Like when you die, the Instagram likes, no one cares. But like how you felt and how you showed up with your family and all those things is what really matters. And so I just like trying to remind people of the things that matter are the things that matter. And it's okay if not everybody else sees it.
And I think your media, for the years that I've known you, we've been friends now for 7 years, reflects that at every step of the way, right? And that's why I like it so much. I don't get a sense of anxiety when I see the things that you post. And it's not that social media makes me overly anxious, but the collection of everything over time can sometimes feel overwhelming, the way that people present things.
Yeah.
And I'm also someone who inherently like cheers for other people, my friends, glad to see them happy. So I'm not competitive. But I think the aggregates can sometimes make you feel like, as you said earlier, I'm not doing enough. I need to do more, right? I'm not keeping up. And this gets a little bit more career oriented. But, for a few years there, I was, seeing all these people talk about scaling their businesses. And now I make fun of the worship the altar of scale. But there's this thing in the back of my mind. It's like, am I missing something? Am I missing out on doing something right? And the more time I spend in these environments, the more I realize that people are reinventing their businesses all the time. And usually the people who are talking about their 7-figure businesses, as you said, are not talking about the 7-figure stress or overhead, right? And I realized pretty quickly that my 6-figure business had substantially better margins, lower stress. I'm in complete control of everything, fulfilled. It's much more stable. And it made me realize that I wasn't doing something weird by staying in full-time in-person personal training. I had a client this morning, did breakfast, recorded with you. I have 8 clients in a row immediately after you. Okay, right? That's my work. And some are new, a lot of them are long-term. It's incredibly stable. I'm literally training out of my basement for most of my time now. It's incredibly fulfilling work. It gives me tons of ideas to write social media, long form, podcast, etc. And I'm doing it on my terms. So that's just been a realization over time. And I've been able to tune out any of these little sensations that maybe somehow I'm behind. I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, like the nature of social media and how the algorithms work is you're always trapped in this like local minimum or local maximum of what you see. Like when I get on social media, I feel like I'm behind, like massively, right? Because most of the stuff I see is like, oh, every business should be $100 million. And I'm like, oh my God, the amount of work it's going to take me to go from here to there. Like, I'm going to die. Like, I know what it's taking me to go from 0 to where I'm at today. Like, I'm literally going to die, or I'm going to get divorced, or my kids are going to hate me, or like whatever. And so, I mean, we all feel that.
Mm.
There's always the keeping up with the Joneses.
Right. You look around at kind of who's, at your level sort of thing, right? It's just, I suppose, take good lessons from Hormozy, but don't take it all too literally, right? So if people want to go and check out more of your stuff, they can follow you on Instagram at brad.dieter, which is spelled dieter, which is just brilliant. I love that. Yeah. Where else would you send people for, resources to check out what you're doing?
Yeah, macrosinc.net. You can find us there. We just released a free nutrition tracking app called MacroSync, spelled SYNC, like in sync, sort of. No, but syncing your macros. So we released that. It gets updated every couple weeks with new features. We basically decided all of the big ones that used to be free, they then took some of the features and put them behind a paywall. So we built it. We paid for it. It's free. Everybody can go use it. Instead of me driving around a Ferrari or a McLaren, people now have a free nutrition tracking app. So that's great. It's actually much less headache for me than having something like that in the garage. So
it's funny because now I got to avoid getting in trouble with my sponsor, Macros First, which is a great free nutrition tracking app. Jacob, I love you, man. You're great.
Yeah.
And you guys got to hang out and meet because he was at my event and was a sponsor of the event. So he's been wanting to connect with you, really loves your guys' stuff, right? But you guys have your own thing. So anyway, Macros Inc., Macros First, they're both amazing. Don't get them confused. And it's great to have you on here again. Thank you so much. Everybody listening, please go, dig into what Brad's doing. And if you are recently finding this episode, maybe you found it through Brad's media. I think a lot of your world kind of knows me. We've spoken at a bunch of events together, but I would love to have you stick around. I've had our friend Mike Dola not so long ago as a guest. And I've had great episodes with people like Dr. Spencer Nadolsky, Dr. Crystal Guevara. Both of those episodes went really heavy into GLP-1 agonist medication stuff, lifestyle, obesity. There's a lot of stuff on that theme, but please scroll through my guests. I've been working really hard on bringing the best episodes and evidence-based stuff that does a better job than the popular wellness podcast stuff, which we get people who sound authoritative saying all kinds of crazy shit. So I'm trying to bring you guys the best people. So stay tuned, and thank you guys so much. Thank you, Brad.
You bet. Thank you, Andrew. It was an honor to be here, and I love watching the last few months of how stuff has grown on your podcast. So keep it up.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I've put a ton of work into bringing you industry-leading guests. I also put a ton of work into my coaching programs. Registration is now open for my Forever Strength 13-week online women's strength program. It starts Monday, June 30th, but secure your spot today. I cap registration at 125 members. This round offers between 2 and 4 full-body strength workouts. It's flexible for you because summers get busy and you don't want to drop your strength training completely until fall. You can choose between a gym program or a home dumbbell and TRX version. There are tons of great programs out there, but here's what sets mine apart. While my program is structured so you can function independently, I'm here when you need help. For form feedback, coaching, support, and I reply promptly, not just in 24 hours. I've heard horror stories about coaches and programs that charge high ticket prices, only to have the coach take days to respond, if they even do at all. More and more coaches are trying to automate, systemize, and scale themselves out of interacting with their clients or even being a real human. You'd get better support from it. Instead, try my support and program this summer, all for just $160 Canadian, and you can save 10% on that using the code LIFTFREE, all one word, LIFTFREE. Register at foreverstrength.ca or use a link in the show notes or message me directly on Instagram. I'll hook you up. If you're a coach, you're welcome to. We often put our own training last, and it's nice to have a plan and support when you need it. You're welcome to join to experience how I run my program. Registration closes Monday, July 7th.